Welcome to the Activated Storytellers 13th podcast. The date is September 14th, 2006.
This week's story is Little Red Riding Hood. It's a folktale of European origin.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Zephyr.
And we are the Activated Storytellers. Now, you'll notice that all three of us are here today, whereas last week we only had two-thirds of us. Yes, Zephyr has returned from camp. And he's going to give us a full report, right?
Well, the camp I went to was not back-to-school camp, which is like back-to-school camp, but not, clearly. It's a camp for unschoolers and homeschoolers, and what happens is they get together for a week, and some of the campers lead workshops where they sort of share each other's skills and talents. Of course, everything's optional. You don't have to go to a workshop or have to lead a workshop, but everyone's got workshops there, and they sort of feed off of each other's talents and learn from each other. They also have projects. I participated in the music project, and I brought my electric guitar, which managed to bust its A string on the first day I was there. For those of you who play guitar, you know that busting a string, A strings are not particularly the best ones to bust, because they're right in the middle. But anyway, I ended up using an acoustic bass guitar, and it turns out I can play bass, too. So I ended up buying my own bass guitar after I got back from camp.
Yes, he did, and he made a lot of friends at camp that he's keeping in touch with. Today we're coming to you from Oregon City, Oregon.
We are at the end of the Oregon Trail.
We didn't follow the entire Oregon Trail to get here, but a lot of people did a long time ago. And so now they have an interpretive center here. A nice little museum with some live presentations that we really enjoyed.
We learned a lot here at the museum. First of all, we need to point out that the Oregon Trail is not the same thing as the Lewis and Clark Trail, which is what we covered in our August 29th podcast. The Oregon Trail came much later, and it was as the settlers were heading west. Oregon, at that point in time, in 1843 to 1900, when the Oregon Trail was being used quite often, Oregon at that time was consistent of the states Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana.
Yes, and the Lewis and Clark Trail was a route that was taken by men, primarily, who were not interested in settling permanently, but were just exploring the territory for others. Whereas the Oregon Trail was followed by families who wanted to settle in the new territory.
And speaking of families, one of the most interesting facts I think we learned was that the people on the Oregon Trail were the original road schoolers. They wanted their kids to have a good education, but at the same time, of course, there were no schools, so they took to teaching them on the road. Which is kind of the formula that we follow today.
That's what our family does. In fact, there are several families out there who would consider themselves road schoolers, which is kind of like homeschooling, except you don't really have the home, so you're schooling on the road. And you can find out more about families who are on the road and families who want to be on the road at familiesontheroad.com.
Yes, and here at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, we saw a couple of presenters who gave some very interesting talks and answered questions. They showed a film and corrected a lot of misunderstandings that people have about the Great Trek West. One thing that people often tend to believe is that a lot of people didn't survive the journey. And in fact, 90% of the people who made the trip made it okay. So I guess 10% is quite a bit, but still not nearly as high as people tend to believe.
There's a lot of reasons people came west. Some of them were trying to escape problems. Maybe their farm failed and they wanted to start all over again. Others, they believed some of the information that they were told in town about how great out west it was. In fact, some of these people were they liked to tell tall tales about how wonderful it was out west. In fact, they said that the land was so fertile.
How fertile was it?
Why, it was so fertile that if you put a fence post in the ground, and the next morning you'd wake up and there would be a pear tree growing off of one side and a apple tree off of the other.
I think one of the most interesting things about this big trek westward is that it was very expensive. In today's dollars, it would be something like $100,000 to make this journey, and you had to walk the whole way. I mean, how many people would do that?
Yeah, so definitely it was families who were coming out west, and very well-educated families who were coming out west. And they brought books with them. Their intent was to come out here and set up schools. That was one of the first things they did. They set up the first library in Oregon City in 1842.
Now, speaking of books, we had a look at some of the books they were able to bring along with them. And one of them was, well, more than one, but one in particular that caught our eye was a popular fairy tale that we'd like to do for you today.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Once upon a time, there was a girl who wore a red hood. So people called her Red Riding Hood, even though she didn't go riding that much.
I look so good in red. Oh my gosh, I'm so great.
Now, one day, Red's mother gave her a basket of cookies.
Cookies! Oh, I love cookies. They smell so good.
Now, Red, they're not for you. They're for your grandmother.
Oh.
Take them to your grandmother and stay out of those deep, dark woods. Now, off you go.
Yes, Mother. But at least I can still smell the cookies.
Now, Red took off to grandmother's, and she decided that the quickest way to get there was through the deep, dark woods.
La, la, la. I wonder which way I should go. Let's see. I could stay on the path or, I think I'll take a shortcut. Yeah, I'll go through the woods.
Well, it wasn't long until along came that mythical creature, a big bad wolf.
Oh, those three pigs were suckers. Oh, hello. Who do we have here?
La, 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 la. Oh, hi. I'm going to my grandmother's house.
Now, why would you be going to your grandmother's house?
Oh, well, I'm taking her these cookies. I'll let you look at them, but don't eat them, okay? See? They smell so good.
Yeah, your grandmother's house. Now, pray tell, where exactly does your grandmother live?
Oh, well, she lives over the river and then under the bridge, and it's at 398 Woodburn Road.
Oh, kids these days. All right, well, I tell you what. Why don't you go on ahead and you tell your grandmother the wolf said hi, all right?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mr. Wolf. Bye. See you later.
So Red continued her journey to grandmother's, and the wolf, who sounded an awful lot like Johnny Depp, continued his way to grandmother's, but he knew a shorter cut. Now, he had wanted to gobble Red up right there, but he was kind of scared because there were woodcutters working nearby, so he had another plan. He went on ahead to grandmother's house.
Who is it?
It's your granddaughter, it's your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, well, come on in. Just open up the door. I'm just going to stay here in bed, not feeling too good today.
So he came in, and he gobbled her up.
Tastes like chicken.
Well, it wasn't long until along came Red.
La.
Who's there? Who's there? I'm hoarse today.
Oh, Grandmother, it's me, your granddaughter.
Who else? Yes. Please, come through the... Just come in.
Okay. Oh, Grandmother, I brought you some, the cookies are kind of gone. Oh, well, sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. Just come closer to the bed. I'm not feeling so well today.
Oh, yes, I noticed your voice is awfully deep. Oh, Grandmother, oh my, what big ears you have.
All the better to hear you with, my dear, because what else would you use ears for?
Of course, oh, Grandmother, what big eyes you have.
You're not a particularly polite child, are you? All the better to see you with, my dear.
Oh, I hope it's not contagious. Oh, Grandmother, what big teeth you have.
All the better to eat you up with, my dear. Oh, I'm so devious.
Eat me? Ah!
Oh, what's going on here? I am a woodcutter. Ah, unhand her, you. Oh, take that. Ha, ho, 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 ha.
Careful, Grandmother's in there.
Oh, I'll take you out.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that was awfully dark and dismal in there. Oh, what?
Say, are you by any chance in need of a new rug? This looks like it would make a good one.
Yeah, just set it right over there.
And so I suppose they lived happily ever after. This is an example of a story that's a bit grim, or a bit violent, as it were. That you encounter a lot of folktales and fairy tales like this. One thing that bothers us about stories like this one is that the wolf is the bad guy, and it's okay to have a wolf be a bad guy once in a while, but these stories have helped give wolves a very bad reputation, as we talked about on a previous podcast.
And you can find out more about the End of the Oregon Trail at endoftheoregontrail.org. That's all for this week. Please join us next Thursday. We'll have more stories from the road and another folktale.
The Activated Storytellers perform at schools and libraries nationwide. On stage, we use American Sign Language, physical comedy, imaginative props, and a giant, oversized book to bring the stories to life. For booking information, check our website at www.activated-storytellers.com, where you can also find out when the Activated Storytellers will be performing near you, read a story, or order one of our audio CDs. Until next time.